Welcome to the Roller and the Stroller podcast. I'm Josiah the Roller, and I was born with cerebral palsy and use a wheelchair.
And I'm Kelly the Stroller. On this podcast, we discuss living with a disability, adapting to surroundings in a wheelchair, and the adventures of our interabled friendship.
Join us as we give insight on how to enjoy life with a disability
And share advice on how to understand someone with a disability.
This is the Roller and the Stroller podcast, produced by Sidewallstudios. Hello there, and welcome back to the Roller and the Stroller podcast. My name is Josiah, and I am your resident roller. Kelly, say hello to the people.
I'm Kelly, I'm your stroller. Hello, people. How are you? Today we are talking about a topic that I want to talk about, and I'm so excited because I'm so passionate about this, and I have no idea if you're as passionate about it as me, but it's like what I live for every day, and that's taking care of our youth. And I wanted to know how we differ in our points of view because of your disability. So my first question would be, when you're wheeling around or maybe just talking about this podcast, who do you hope to it reaches?
As many people as possible.
Okay, so you don't have like a focus group that you're like, I really hope it reaches this group of people.
No, I don't.
Really?
Do you?
Well, obviously people with disabilities, but also people that are in my position that have a best friend with a disability.
Okay.
That's who I hope reaches it. But when I live my life, I feel like everything I do gears towards the youth. That's like my main purpose in life. Yeah.
Okay. And when we speak about the youth, do you mean like Gen Z?
I don't do generations. Usually it's like the high school group.
Okay.
Is that Gen Z? I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, my main goal in life is to set a good example to them and be like a stable adult in their life, because with a lot of the athletes that I've worked with in my past almost 10 years of coaching.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've been coaching high schoolers for 10 years now.
Okay.
And with all my experience coaching them, what I've found the most is a lot of them don't have a stable household, whether that's like they have divorced parents or they have parents that don't get along, or maybe they don't have parents at all, or maybe they have parents they don't get along with, or parents that are, I've had athletes where their parents have been in and out of jail. It's just really crazy. So I try to be that like stable adult in their life, if that makes sense. And so that's what I wake up every morning, and everything I do is like, okay, how can I help the generation to be confident and, just be good humans? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
What have you learned the most from coaching?
Oh God, there's so much that I've learned. I mean, even just yesterday in practice, I've learned a lot of stuff. What do you mean?
Picture yourself in year one versus now.
Okay. About myself or about the athletes?
Yes, about yourself and as it pertains to the athletes. Like, what would you have said to yourself knowing where you are now?
This is going to sound mean. I have to really craft my sentences when I'm talking about this. That most people don't care as much as I do about accountability, about being on time, about putting in all the effort, about dropping everything outside of the playing, whether it's a court, because I coach basketball too, outside of the doors. Like, drop everything and just focus on sports, because to me, sports should be an outlet. It shouldn't be where you let everything else come at you. It should be kind of like a freedom. And I have the capability, well, not the capability, I have the ability, I'm blessed to be able to leave everything outside of athletics. And I've learned that most people cannot. And that's really hard for me to deal with as a coach, because as a coach, I just want to get down to business. I just want to do my practice plan. I just want to get better. I just want to focus, for the next day. But 90% of the time, that's not what coaching is for me anyway. And where I coach, it's making sure my athletes are mentally healthy.
Would you say 90% is taking care of your athletes?
So the way that I break it down is I say coaching is 70% a bunch of other things and 30% actually teaching the sport. Okay. And as years go by, that percentages of actually teaching the sport gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And the percentage of all the other things just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Is that because you don't have new players, or you have returning players who already know the sport? Or no. Why do you say that it decreases?
Well, because in my district, there's a lot of things that we're responsible for, not just teaching the sport. It can be scheduling, budgeting, fundraising, working with other teams to get a field availability, dealing with refs, writing reports, reporting to the news outlets. Like, a lot of people don't know that I do that. I have to report, a little short summary to the Gazette. Do they ever post it? No. But, I mean, they've posted it a few times.
They could.
A few times I have, but like all that kind of stuff. I have to do stats. I have to report to the board of CHASA is what it's called, and talk to all those people, like the president and the treasurer. And a lot of people don't know that. They just think that I like show up and coach a sport. That's the best part of it.
Is coaching the sport.
It's the 2 hours that I get on the field with the girls, but the rest of it is like, oh God. Talking to college coaches is actually, I really do like talking to college coaches, but that can be, there's rules I have to follow, and I have to know those rules. I have to take classes on abuse. I have to take classes on taking their own lives. I have to take classes on depression, and it's really kind of good that we have to take those, but it's also scary that those are very applicable. In my past 10 years of coaching, I've used a lot of those techniques that we've learned in those classes. Thank God I've never had to use CPR. I never ever want to have to do CPR on my athletes. But if I do, I mean, I know how to do it.
You know how to do it.
Yeah. So my point is, like, what I've learned was it's not just coaching the sport. It's so much more than that. And it's really hard. And you have to want to do it. You have to be very passionate about it, because obviously we don't do it for money.
Well, think about this. Somebody is trying to get into coaching.
Oh, okay.
What would you say to them in terms of how to interact with their players?
So when I started out coaching, my first 2 years, I came in hot. Like, I was very aggressive, very like pissed off at the world. Like, we're going to win championships, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, oh, and then some things happened between me and athletes. And I was like, okay, whoa, this is not anything that I thought it was going to be. So I would say be ready to be able to adapt and understand that everybody has a different journey. And that's really hard for me, because my journey with sports was to get at the highest level that I could. Most of these athletes don't want to play at the highest level. They just want to be with their friends and have fun. And maybe they use this sport to get in shape for their main sport. Or maybe their family is making them play this sport, which I've had a lot of before. Is like their parents force them to play a sport, and I could tell they really don't want to be there. Or in fact, I had a girl recently tell me, I'm just here to put this on my resume. And I'm like, okay, thanks for your honesty.
Honest,
Exactly. I was like, thank you for your honesty. That doesn't mean I'm not going to coach you any less, but it just gives me a little bit of insight. So if you're trying to get into coaching, maybe talk to your athletes. I always do a one-on-one mental health check, and I check on them, but I also try to understand why they're here, because then I can help them with whatever they're trying to achieve playing a sport, because their goal is different than mine. That's for dang sure.
Yes.
So
okay, so how do you address that, everybody's goals being different? Like, say you have a player or two that really wants to play and really go to the highest level, and then you have other players that are just trying to have fun or have this as an outlet and not really necessarily trying to be a college athlete in this sport, but is trying to have fun during senior year. Or maybe it's their first year playing or something like that.
Yeah. So that's hard to manage. That's really hard to manage individual goals. But I do feel like that's part of coaching, is you want to address team goals and individual goals, right? So what I do with my athletes that want to go to the next level is I help them get there, because thank God I've been there. I know the process, and I have a lot of relationships with these college coaches. And so I can ask the athlete, the first most important thing is, what do you want to study? Because you want to go to a school where they have your field of study. So that's kind of where we start. And then I ask them all these questions. What part of the country do you want to be at? Do you want to play, like, do you care if it's D1, D2, D3 club? Like, I kind of go through that questionnaire process. And honestly, a lot of schools that reach out to me are religious schools, the smaller religious schools. So then I also have to take account, do you want to go, I don't care your religious preference, but do you care if you want to go to a religious school? Okay. So it kind of goes like that. I help them narrow it down. If they want to play at the college level. Now, talking about like the skills to get at college level, that's obviously individually based. So that depends on the athlete, and I can help them get there. I can help them. I will, and I have in the past, created specific workouts for them.
So do you do like one-on-one sessions with them or?
No, I don't do one-on-one sessions. We're not allowed to.
Okay.
But I will give them workouts that they can work out at home. And I had an athlete that I made videos for her, like in my backyard, to show her how to do them.
Like tutorials.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then if in the summer I can work out with them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
But we're not supposed to have one-on-one sessions for the safety of the athlete and also for the safety of me. That's a huge barrier that we have to, that stops a lot of, one-on-one sessions. Now, if I were to just do it outside of my district, I could probably do it. Be like, hey, I'm an individual training lacrosse person, but I don't do that.
Okay.
So now to coach the kids that don't want to get at that level, I got to find out what their goal is to be here.
Like you were saying, why are you here? So what would you say is your favorite thing about coaching?
Oh God, that's really hard. We might need to take
because this message is for the youth.
It is for the youth.
Because you're very passionate about coaching.
Yeah.
And the youth.
I think this is the first thing that comes to mind, and it was very, very prevalent in last season, and actually just this past practice we just had was girls recognizing that they can do something, that their confidence is like for instance, comes to mind. One of my athletes this past game, she comes off the field. I pulled her off the field because we're crushing the other team. Sorry, but we're crushing the other team. I pull her off the field. She goes, Coach, did you see that? Did you see that? I did that. She did a move. And I looked at her and I was like, good job. And in my head, I was like, no freaking duh. I've been telling you can do that for years. But she finally recognized it, and to see like the growth in her and like her smile to like recognize and gain confidence. Like, that's really cool. That's probably one of my favorite things is like, oh my gosh, I did it.
You can do it.
So like, for instance, this past practice, we were kind of doing a drill that this girl had never done before. And she was just like dropping the ball left and right. And then finally, like towards the second to last rep, she killed it. And I was like, yeah, see, told you. And she was so excited about it, like her jaw dropped to the floor. So that's my favorite part, is like seeing them grow in confidence. Because that translates to outside of sports, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important for the youth, is to teach them confidence and like hard work. And you're going to fail time and time again. You're going to fail rep after rep. You're going to drop the ball. You're going to miss the shot. Like, you might blow an interview. You might, break up with one boyfriend, but that doesn't mean like you're not going to learn from it and grow from it. And I think that's really important, to address failure and not ignore it. Like, I hate that saying, like, forgive and forget. Like, I don't think you should forget. I think you should acknowledge it and learn from it and move on and grow from it. Ooh, I wish someone would have taught that to me growing up. No one did.
No one taught you. So your goal is to teach things to your players and to all youth, things that you wish you would have learned.
Of course. Don't we grow into the people that we wish we had, like growing up?
I think so, yes.
You are the same? Like, do you wish that you had an older you when you were baby you?
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, me too. 100%.
Because I often felt like I had to go alone. I was like a lone wolf. But it would be nice to have someone in my circumstance, because nobody in my family, was in my circumstance.
Right.
Like, nobody else had a disability. Nobody else used a wheelchair. And they were very helpful for me. But like, going through the internal feelings of it, it was a really hard thing to do.
I wasn't in a wheelchair, and so I could imagine like your circle of being inspired. I don't know if inspired is the right word, but having somebody that could show you how to navigate the world in a wheelchair as an adult. You didn't have that. And so do you feel that's important for you now as an adult, like to show other people that, hey, like, you can make it on your own when you're in a wheelchair. You can live in a house. You can have a job. You can navigate like Ubers and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think I was having a conversation at actually the Whiskey Baron when we were there for work.
Shout out,
if you
Whiskey
remember.
Baron.
And this woman approached me, and she had a son who was in a wheelchair and has cerebral palsy, and was asking me all these questions like, how do you get around? What do you do? What does it look like when you have to do chores? Like, all of these different questions. And I was like, it's very possible, first of all. It's just going to be, like I always say, take a little more time. As long as you're patient, as long as you can have the mindset of determination of like you're going to do this if you want to do it, like going hiking or skiing or whatever. It takes a little more time, and so that's what I want to pass on through this podcast to the generation behind us, but to all people, like people who use wheelchairs, people who have disabilities. I want to encourage them not to get too down and out or sad about their circumstance, because we can have pretty fulfilling lives.
Did you tell her to listen to our podcast? Because we talk about that. How to do all those things.
No, I didn't say listen to our podcast. So it was a missed opportunity. But that's what I want to do with this podcast.
So you worked at a college. You don't work there anymore. How did your view on the youth change from before you worked at a college till after?
The youth can be sad these
Very
days.
sad. Very sad.
Very sad. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now that is very sad. It was really important to not hit the crisis button every single time and just have a conversation first of like where they are, what their routine was, what they are eating, how they are exercising, if they're getting social time, if they're getting sleep. All of these different things. Are they going to the gym? Are they getting nutrition? And all of these different factors can contribute to your mental state of well-being if you're not physically taking care of your body. That's what we did a lot of when I worked at the college.
Yeah, that's the same thing for me, as I have to look out for all of those things. There was a time when I first started coaching where we found out that a group of our kids were not eating. Their families could not afford to eat. So there was like a lunch program where the school would provide lunches, right? So they were eating, but when they were on like a break, whether that's Christmas break, summer break, fall break, whatever, they weren't eating, which was to me as like a little 22-year-old fresh out of college. I didn't understand that. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard about it, but I had never seen it before. And I was like, oh, this is like legitimate. And there was a group of them that were not eating. So me and the other coaches, we went to the store and we bought a bunch of food and we brought it to practice every day during break so they could at least have some food. And then it came to the point where the next year I would bring food to every single game so they at least could eat before a game.
Okay. Are there channels to address food insecurity where you work? Okay.
There was when I first started, but I was not a head coach.
Okay.
And so I didn't take all the classes that I do now, and I didn't know all the outlets that I do now, because my first year coaching, I was a volunteer. And then my second year coaching, I was like a JV assistant. Okay. So I wasn't ever a head coach, and that's no excuse. Like I probably should have done something. But now, after 10 years, you learn and all these things, and there are things that we do now when we notice that. And even to this day, I bring food just in case. In case an athlete doesn't want to tell me what's really going on, I don't have to pressure them. I'm just like, all right, cool. Here's some, there's food over there for anybody who wants it.
Is it like...
And let me also say, sometimes athletes do forget to eat. I am very famous for that.
Okay.
And you know that. I forget to eat all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's not a problem. It's just like, oh, dude, it slipped my mind.
So how do you approach difficult conversations with your athletes? Like, let's say they're failing a class.
Oh, okay, that's easy.
They're ineligible to play.
Yeah.
Just give you a softball to start.
That's the easy. Grades are easy. Thank God. Like anytime something is like someone's ineligible, I'm like, okay, this is an easy conversation. So generally I just pull the athlete aside and say, hey, I pulled your grades. This is what it's looking like. What's happening? I'm not immediately like, why are you failing this? Why aren't you turning this in? No. Because as somebody who also failed a few classes, it was out of my hands when I failed certain classes, essentially. So I come from a place of compassion. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Are you not understanding it? Can we get some extra help? Are you showing up to class? What's happening? And so I try to find the root of it first before I make any assumptions. And about 90% of the time it's, coach, I just have a bunch of late work I haven't turned in. That's usually what it is. And I'm like, oh, thank God. That's easy. And then they turn it in and everything's fine. I have to be honest. I don't have a lot of eligibility problems anymore. I used to.
That's good.
I used to.
Okay.
But now we don't. So shout out to the girls.
How do you approach an injury and the player still wants to play?
Can't do it. Sorry about it. So we have a protocol that we have to run. Is if an athlete gets hurt, they have to go to the trainer and the trainer has to clear them. And the trainer is very, very good about communicating with me about if that athlete is clear.
What if they don't tell you they have the injury?
Usually my girls are pretty honest.
Okay.
But sometimes they won't tell me and then their teammates tell on them. It's really cute. It's really cute. Coach, you need to check on her. She does not look okay. Like, it's actually super cute. They look out for each other. But we did have a scenario where 2 girls played through an injury through a game and they didn't tell me till the next day. And I was not happy about it. And I said, speaking from experience, you're going to ruin your body because I did the same thing. I didn't tell my coach and I screwed up my body. So please don't do that. And then they're like, okay. So we generally have a talk. I'm not a yeller or a screamer or like a mean person to them. I try to come from a place of understanding because I was in their shoes too, where I lied about being hurt. And then I try to use myself as an example. So
what do you do when your players are feeling the pressure of a big game?
Try to lead by example and be calm. You were at that game that I'm thinking of this past season where the other team started coming back and my girls started to freak out a little bit and I had to remain calm in order for them to remain calm. And in fact, parents pulled me aside after that game and they were like, you did a really good job coaching that game. And I'm like, thanks. I was freaking out in my head, but I tried not to let.
But you didn't outwardly show it.
So lead by example.
What do you do when you have a concern with a player?
What type of concern?
Whether they are, let's take, for example, if they're eating or if they're dealing with food insecurity.
So that's really hard because I am a mandated reporter. So anytime that I know an athlete is going through something like that, I do have to report it. So like a mandated reporter is like if a kid is in any sort of dangerous situation, I have to report it. Right. And there's certain steps. And I'm very proud to say that the district that I work for is awesome about it. They're super great. They're super responsive. They keep me updated. They keep me in the know. They are very honest about what's going to happen next. And I like that.
Okay. Is it out of your control when you report it? Once you report it, can you do anything about it? Are there any follow-ups?
Yeah, there are follow-ups.
Okay.
Yes. But essentially, the district does a really good job of saying, hey, and I've only had to do it a handful of times. It's not like this is an every season thing.
Okay.
But I have had to do it a few times before. And it's a very, it feels good knowing that the district has my back. Like, they're like, okay, we acknowledge this. Thank you for letting me know. Keep an eye on this athlete. They obviously trust you a lot. This is what's going to happen next. Here are a few possible outcomes. And once this next steps happens, we're going to call you, tell you that we're moving forward, or this is how we're handling it. So I'm 100% in the know of what's going on.
Now, do you have to be involved at all in the decision making?
No, they say, you've done your job. Keep an eye out. Let us know if anything else happens. We'll keep you updated, but eventually they're the ones that make the decisions, not me. But they know that I'm probably the most trusted adult in that kid's life. For a kid to go to that length to tell me something like that intense. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Because they have all these teachers, they have counselors, they have parents, they have friends, but the person that they told was me.
Is there a coach?
Yeah.
Shifting slightly, what do you do when you coach a back-to-back?
Like a game?
Is it coaching? Do you coach differently knowing that you have a back-to-back games on your schedule?
I think I do.
Okay. Do you take it lighter in practice, or what does that look like?
Totally. I think we take it lighter in practice, but it also depends on the teams we're playing back-to-back.
Okay.
Like if we're playing a really tough team the first game, I kind of lay back a little bit and be like, hey, do your best. I'm substituting a lot more. And if the second game is a game that I know that we should win, then I'm not substituting as much. Okay. Does that make sense? Like it depends who we're playing back-to-back. I have to think about that. I don't think about fair playing time. I don't think about any of that. I have to think about what is the best outcome from our team playing against a different team.
Okay.
So the best, like, let's just say we're playing a team that wins every freaking game that they play. My goal as a coach is obviously not to win that game. It's to continue to get better and show these athletes that we can hang with them and we're going to learn from this team. I don't care if we lose by 15. I don't care. Like, what matters is how we're playing together as a team. So my goal for every game is different as a coach, which is wild, and I never thought it would be. I always thought it'd be like win every single game, but that's not my mindset anymore.
This is going to be a nuanced question. You ready?
I'm ready.
What do you do to control your emotions or reaction when you lose a game you thought you should win?
Oh, I know some of my athletes listen to our podcasts, and I can tell that they're grinning at this answer. My emotions, I struggle hardcore with my emotions. I used to be really bad, and now I'm a little better, but I have taught myself to stay quiet. Like, do not say a word, keep it very short, very simple. A lot of the girls don't like that. They want to hear things from me, but my best response is sleep on it. Think about what you're going to say, because I'm mad. I get really mad because I don't know. I hate that.
That you lose a game you think you should win?
Yeah. I hate that.
What do you do if something is out of your control? Like this season, you had a bunch of injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Injuries.
Yeah. So that sucked. And sometimes I feel like that was in my control because I talked to you and Ryan about it. Shout out Ryan. If you haven't listened to our episode with Ryan, shout out Ryan.
Ryan Kaufman.
Shout out. You guys were talking about how a team was getting a bunch of injuries and how you feel like it was the coach's fault because the coach wasn't taking proper protocol in practices for injury prevention. Do you remember that conversation? And I hopped in and I was like, wait a second.
Wait.
I'm dealing with a bunch of injuries right now. This is my fault. So like, I think about that. Like, how can I incorporate more injury prevention into my practices? So after season, I immediately had a really long conversation with our trainer. I had a really long conversation with another coach in the community about how to adjust my practice plans to make sure that doesn't happen again. Now, you can't avoid concussions. You can't avoid getting a stick to the head. You can't. So
how many did you
How many have I had?
Yeah, how many did you have during your playing career?
Me?
Yes.
I've had one diagnosed one. Let's just say that. But my high school trainer is now my trainer for the girls.
Okay.
Like, he is at one of the schools that I coach at. And he's like, you probably had so many undiagnosed concussions. And I was like, yeah. And in college, I got hit a lot. But anyway, the point is, how do I handle those injuries? It's, I have to understand that getting them back on the field as quick as possible is not important. It's their safety. Okay. And telling them that, because athletes, they look you in the eyes and they're so cute and they're like, Coach, I'm fine. Coach, I'm fine. Please. What if I just stand on attack? What if I, and I'm like, no. And they are little manipulative little kiddos and they just want to get back on the field. And I'm like, I can't. It's not worth it. It's not worth your mental health, because that can develop into depression. It can develop into anxiety and memory issues. I mean, I know that. I'm going through it. So it's just like, no, you don't want to be like me. No. And none of my girls repeat that. They're like, you don't want to be like Coach. So, well, you don't want to end up like Coach. And I'm like, you don't. So, well, it's just honesty and learning to say no. If you're trying to get into coaching, the best advice I can tell you is learn to say no and stick to your guns, and also learn to admit when you don't know something. I don't know are 3 very powerful words. Don't lie to an athlete. Don't pull an answer out of your brain that doesn't make sense, because teenagers are very smart and they're looking to you for an answer. And if you don't have the answer, tell them that you don't know. And they're going to trust you more. I don't know the answer. Let me do some research on that. Or I don't know. It depends where the ball is. Depends on possession. And they're like, oh. I'm like, I know. I hate that answer, but it's the truth.
How do you establish team chemistry?
That's really hard. Teenage girls they're tough.
I know. A lot of different opinions, different attitudes.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? How do you manage a team?
That's really hard. I'm not very good at it because I'm a drama-free person.
You're a drama-free person.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when my high school and college teammates were full of drama, I just separated myself from them. I was like, okay, bye.
Okay, but you could do that as a player.
Yeah, as a coach, you cannot.
Yeah, how do you manage that?
Oh, I'm not good at it. Usually I like kind of ignore it and I pray it goes away. But if it doesn't go away, I do have to pull the athlete aside and say, hey, what's going on? Because usually it's something outside the gates that's making them bring drama inside of the field. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like when an athlete is mean or rude to her teammates or even me, there's something else going on. There's something else out of her control, and she's trying to grasp at anything that she can control. So I have to pull the athlete aside and just kind of figure it out and talk to them and say, hey, like, let's just say I don't have an Ashley, but let's just say Ashley is cussing at Caitlin. Do I have a Caitlin? No, I don't have a Caitlin. Let's just say Ashley and Caitlin are just not vibing.
Not vibing.
They're just not vibing,
The vibes
which
are
happens
off.
a lot. The vibes are off between these two teenagers. I'll pull them each aside and say, hey, what's up? Or I'll just try to keep them separate the whole practice. Because not everyone is going to get along. That's just human nature. And it just depends. Why are you mad at her? Is it because of a boy?
Those boys.
God. Is it because of, did you guys have the same dress at prom? Is it because this person got voted what is it called? Treasurer
Valedictorian?
or whatever, and you didn't? Is it because this person's starting over you? Is it because this person's a captain? Is it because this person is getting more playing time than you? Do you feel like this person is getting more attention? Then am I giving this person more attention than I am giving to you? What's up? So I try to kind of figure that out.
Okay. What if it's multiple people causing different types
That's easy.
of drama?
Okay.
What if something is
Not
going
easy.
on?
That was the wrong word. I would rather handle a big issue than two girls not getting along.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Why?
Because it's not easy. It's easier for me to sit down in front of my girls and have a heart to heart with all of them and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I did wrong as a coach. This is how I'm going to move forward and fix it. This is why I did what I did. I am not sorry for that. This is why I feel usually when it's a huge problem, the girls aren't meshing with me, right? To me, I feel like there's something that is holding them together against the coaching staff. So I would rather sit down and say, hey, why are me as a coach and you guys as a team, not coming together? Let's figure it out. And usually after that talk, it fixes everything.
Not vibing.
We're just not vibing. What can I do differently as a coach to fix this? And I think adults need to do that more. Whether you're a teacher, whether you're a coach, whether you're a parent,
whether you're a fireman.
Instead of placing blame on these teenagers, they obviously see something different in a different light than you do. So go to them and say, hey, what did I do that you didn't understand or you didn't agree with, so we can move forward? And a lot of the times I don't agree with what they say, but I have to change in order for them to trust me.
Speaking of trust, how do you connect with your players, especially the ones that are younger and using lingo that you haven't heard?
I asked them what the lingo means. First of all, I'm like, what the heck does that even mean? Well, it's really easy for me to connect with them. They're hilarious, and I want to connect with them. So if you don't have a desire to connect with the youth, then it's not going to work.
What if they say something like "on God"?
I know what that means.
Okay.
I think it's funny. I mean, a lot of the things that they say, I think is funny. Or I just do this. Okay. And they think that is the funniest thing.
You say okay.
I'm just like, okay. And they think it's so funny because they can tell I'm fed up with their little lingos.
Okay.
But like connecting with an athlete individually is just finding their other interests outside the gates. Looking at them as humans instead of lacrosse players, which I don't think my coaches ever did for me. I don't think they ever cared about what I did outside of sports.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you want to be, that you've been coaching for so long. You want to be a coach that is different from the coaches that you had.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think that you would have been a coach for 10 years if you didn't have all these different coaches?
Bad coaches? No.
Okay.
I had some good coaches. But the reason that I coach, and most people don't ask me this, but the reason why I coach is because I had a very abusive coach. Let me say abusive in more than one way. And one time when this coach was screaming at me, telling me like the worst things that you could ever tell a kid. Like,
Yeah.
you're worthless, you're useless, you suck, you're easily replaceable, you're like just terrible. I was just staring at this coach in the eyes. And I was like, this is the moment. This is the moment. I get to choose what happens next. I get to choose to either continue to take this and keep it as a negative, or I can use the rest of my life to turn this into a positive. And that's what I did.
Boom.
Boom, baby.
Boom, baby.
So I hate to give that coach any credit, but that is the sole reason why I became a coach, is because I was like, I can't let anybody else go through this. Now can I save the whole world? No. But
okay.
I'm going to try.
Do you envision retiring?
Coaching?
Anytime soon.
To be determined.
TBD.
TBD.
We can cut this out. If you know what I mean.
No, it's fine. TBD. It gets harder every year. It takes a toll on your mental health. If you're interested in coaching, it do take a toll on your mental health.
This is going to sound weird. What do you do to check yourself when you care too much?
I don't.
You don't check yourself. You just care too much? Okay.
Yeah, I'd rather care too much than turn it off.
Do you have a message for
to the youth?
The youth?
Find a good outlet in your life to get away from whatever you're going through. Your problems are not small. And the reason I say that is a lot of people think that these teenagers, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, but it's a big deal to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an adult and an athlete or a youth, your daughter, your son, whatever, comes to you and is sad about they failed a test or they broke up with their boyfriend, and your first thing is, it's not that big of a deal. Well, to them it is. So just listen to them because it matters to them. And they're brave enough to come to you and tell you about it. So listen to them. And then on the flip side, for the youth, I have so many athletes that are like, I don't want to worry you and I don't want to bother you. I don't care about that. So get that out of your head. Find somebody you trust and talk to them.
My message is, it's a great day to be alive. And everybody deserves to have a life. And life is a gift. So when you are sad, just know that the world is a better place with you in it. Because I dealt a lot with that for the college kids when I worked at a college, and I was like, if I could tell them one thing, I always said the world is better with you in it.
And I also like to thank my athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for spending your free time at the field or playing lacrosse.
Or summer ball.
Yeah. Like my foreign exchange kiddos, they spent their time in America playing lacrosse. Like, how freaking dope is that? That was sick as hell. So thank you for being awesome. And you guys teach me way more than I teach you, I feel. Shout out to the youth.
Shout out to
the youth.
The youth. We mention this band almost every single episode. So here's this mention. Story of the Year has a song called Message to the World.
They do. It's a good
and it's
one.
on Black Swan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So our messages to the world, to the youth, mine are, the world is better with you in it, and you are unstoppable.
True. Preach.
You are unstoppable, because a lot of people say, they look at me when I was younger and say the wheelchair limits you. I'm here to tell you, as a 29-year-old man, we've figured it out, boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
And you can too. Hell, if I can, then you can too.
Shout out.
Okay.
Shout out to Story of the Year. Again.
Message to the world.
Hey, what's up? It's post-editing Kelly. So the song I recommended during this episode, I already recommended before in season 1. So I'm cheating and I'm changing my recommendation in post. And so my recommendation is going to be Truth of My Youth by Newfound Glory off of their album Catalyst, which turns 20 this year. And they're actually doing a tour for this album, and we're going. Josiah doesn't know it, but once he watches this, we're going. And I'm so excited because it's my favorite Newfound Glory album. So Truth of My Youth by Newfound Glory. Shout out to the youth. Y'all are amazing. I love you. Thank you so much for everything. You're awesome.
Okay.
All right, that's
Goodbye, everyone. This
Thanks.
has been the Roller and the Stroller. I'm Josiah the Roller.
I'm Kelly the Stroller.
Peace. Thank you for listening to the Roller and the Stroller podcast. We're rolling out.
This is a Sidewall Studios production.
Boom! Oh, we should keep that moving.